All right, Jerry Gidel is ready to comment on the new choppy week finishing right now and the planting surface in the United States, right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. If you are new here, please make sure to subscribe. So, Jerry, how are you today? So, corn ended up negative on Friday, and the week was very choppy.
Yeah, it's been a real choppy week all over this week. With about every other day, we went a different direction. Primarily because we seem to have peace breaking out every once in a while, which was in reality not an opportunity. But we had various uh, ideas about negotiations going on, and then they didn't do as well. And then the next day, we thought we might have things going on. And then towards the end of the week here, I think we also had an impact of what was going to go on here in the U.S. And weather-wise over this weekend and early next week on things that could impact the wheat market, and particularly the Southern Plains and the U.S. hard red winter wheat crop here that has been really a very dry winter so far.
And what can you tell us about soybeans?
Well, soybeans have been a crop that has really kind of taken a little bit of a back seat in its emotions here over the last 3 or 4 weeks, primarily because of the impact of what's going on here in the Black Sea and primarily Ukraine. They're really producers of wheat and corn. They've definitely had the impacts here of the reduced exports because of the military action going on across the country, and even some of the ports have been shut down under the concern that things could do damage or things of that nature, and trying to eliminate military activity in that area. Actually, there's been a few ships that supposedly even come out of the Russian ports here on some wheat over the last week or so. But Ukraine definitely hasn't had too much activity from there. The soybean side of things also is an interesting one here from the point of view that the South American crop at this point, we continue to get us some updates on that one from Ag Rural and some other ones down there, Ag Consultancy that took a tour out there, and they're across various areas, because we are really kind of winding down South America's crop at this point in Brazil. With maybe just a so-so late yields, and then there's been some commentary out of Buenos Aires and their contacts out there that some of the early yield situations on beans were not as maybe as strong as people had hoped. From there, the stress though in the soybeans and things of that nature in the oil seeds have been reduced because of the fact that sunflowers is the only particular crop that's in the kind of firing line, if you will, in Ukraine and so that situation has taken a little bit off. Now, the key thing is, though, that as we go into the 2022 season here, it's going to be quite interesting as to what the U.S. plantings are going to do here at this point. So we've got just getting to start some new ideas about that this week.
Yes, do you really believe that soybeans will have a larger surface than corn?
Well, the twist of it always is interesting in the corn soybean world. The actual harvested soybeans, we usually take about 1 million off our plantings there. On our actual harvested acres, while in corn, we also have a very significant portion of it, somewhere between 7-8 million acres, that actually turns out to be silage for the cattle and the backgrounding and feedlots and things of that nature. So the actual harvested acres actually for the last actual scenario here on the soybeans is such that last year we had about 87 million on beans and we had 93 plus million acres on corn. I'm looking for that to come down a little bit on corn, not as low as the USDA's 92 million. Actually, another prominent U.S. Consulting firm put out a number of 92.4. Actually, I'm still kind of anticipating we're probably closer to 92.6, maybe 92.7. So that'll be down, 500,000 to 700,000 acres. And that primarily because of the lack of fertilizer and input costs being very high. I think it's going to shift a few acres on corn. But the other side of the coin is we've really already had a pretty good jump in winter wheat. We've also had a likelihood of recovery in the spring wheat numbers by 1 million or more, and Durham the same thing. And so now all of a sudden we only got so many finite acres out here that are primarily available to us, and that I'm really surprised that there's people out there from another consulting firm thinking we're going to have a 2 million increase or more, 2.2, I think it was, up over 89.4 million acres. I see a slight increase in soybean numbers, probably about 1 million, but I don't see that extra million they're looking for unless we're going to find a lot of acres out here that have been not utilized for the last 5 or 6 years. I know there's be some of that, but the biggest thing in all this thing is the fact that it costs a lot of money right now to find inputs and things of that nature on some of these things. We're going to try to utilize some good acres and all these other acres that haven't been used for the last 5 to 10 years. There it takes a lot of inputs, the fertilizer, all the pesticides, even the fact that most of these cases, the land is sitting there as potentially non-usable or fallow or whatever you like to say. That usually has grass on it and has very extensive root systems and things of that nature. And that really takes the moisture out of your ground. And so you really have to have a very optimistic idea about what our rainfall numbers might be for the coming summer. And actually this week's National Weather Service update for the summertime, June, July, and August period had above normal temps over 2/3 of the country. Maybe the only area was the upper Midwest lake areas and up to the Northeast. And at the same time, moisture situations in the precipitation levels were very similar. And the same area of Wisconsin, Michigan, on up into the Northeast, there was going to have above normal precip. That really is not a great opportunity to get a good yield. So I don't know. I guess I'm pessimistic that we're going to find a huge amount of acres here on beans. We do need more beans because of the fact that this expanding by a renewable diesel situation, and particularly in the 2013-14, 2023, I should say, 23 and 24, and even 24-25, we're going to need a lot of soybeans to meet some of these very optimistic ideas about expanding our diesel consumption through renewable diesel, which is really a interesting term. It's just in essence burning 100% bean oil, soybean oil. I've smelled some of those great inventions back in Brazil here, probably 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago. And that's a great concept. The problem is I wish we could have enough of bean oil out there to do all that, but it's going to be there. It's just that we got to figure out how to get there.
Now, for wheat, do you think that there are still some folks waiting for an even higher price?
No, I'm not sure there's many of those people. They've really got dinged up here in the last 2 weeks, but I think there's some people anticipating some recovery and some uncertainty here because at this point, I'm not sure that we can say with a real certainty here that there's going to be some kind of ceasefire or peace breakout. Seems like our friend, the Russians and Putin are seem to be in the attitude that even a comment that came out here that he wasn't too excited about the management and the government of Ukraine. So he was basically looking to kind of wear him down and blow him up with a bunch of cannon fire. At this point, it's interesting. They haven't really showed up with a bunch of infantry going through Kiev or other cities. They seem to love to be outside and just kind of rattle everybody's teeth with a bunch of cannon fire and that. And they've really done some very nasty things here with some of the things they've happened here and things that they've blown up. But I don't know. It's an interesting situation at this point. I think the President Biden's also trying to make sure the Chinese are less involved than the Russians want them to be at this point. They had a big conversation today. I didn't hear that there was any negative thing coming out of there that the China really doesn't want to get involved either in their own situation. They've got a lot of economic areas and problems going on, and also all of a sudden they're getting another blast of COVID-19 here that's causing us some issues in their prospects of keeping their economic area going on. So there's lots of different balls in the air right now, and it's going to make it very difficult. But I kind of feel like that this market still has some upside emotions in it. Now, the key thing is that as we go into the 31st of this month, I suspect that by the middle latter part of next week that a lot of people will be just saying, I'm just going to wait to see what the acreage number turns out to be from the U.S. and that. And their survey that they're going through now is probably about now that they're going to be finalizing that through the various states and that and getting it ready. They might even go as far as middle of next week. It usually can take a week for them to get the statistics together on it. But that's going to be psychologically, it's going to be a big factor there on how we start to go into April. But the U.S. weather right now, it seems like we're getting a little rain this week here in the Southwest and on through the Midwest, on through early next week. But there doesn't seem to be any follow-up on most of the forecasts, and a lot of weather forecasters are talking about kind of reverting back to this generally above normal temps and generally limited moisture. And if it comes back with a windy, hot temperatures, that moisture that does fall will not be able to provide any huge improvement in our drought situation in the Southwest.
All right. We'll keep watching the markets. Thank you.
Oh yeah, this is it's going to be very interesting. Exactly right. The upside in these markets, we've taken a bunch of it in that, and there's no doubt that this upside is going to be tougher from here than it was 2 or 3. How we've reacted since the invasion, but at the same time, there's a lot of issues here that right now, at least, thinks like that we're going to have the U.S. situation on plantings. How does the whole export capabilities out of the Black Sea go? There are so many balls in the air. It will make it a very interesting 4 to 6 weeks out here and longer.